Yes, Mr. Meshack. Karibu sana.
Nice.
Karibu sana. Karibuni wageni wetu.
Yeah.
Over here we have Mr. Meshack. Kindly tell them about yourself.
Meshack Samson Miner here, the Nairobi Power Bikes brand ambassador. And YouTube is Two Wheels Paradise. On every other social media, Meshack Samson Miner. Good.
So I am Paul Mudhama from Nairobi Power Bikes. We work closely with Mr. Meshack here. YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, you can get me on Paul Bikes or nairobipowerbikes.paulbikes. You'll get me there. If you have any question, utatuliza maswali hapo. So today we'll be talking about this Tekken 200cc.
Yes.
Sasa tuambie about this Tekken 200cc. I hear it's a good off-road bike. Mbona is it a good off-road bike?
Tumekuwa nazo for the last like 7 months also, I believe so. And I've used about 6 units. I have had 2 for myself, actually 3, including the one I'm riding right now. 3 for myself and did 3 deliveries. So a combination of over 10,000 kilometers on those few units. And from my own evaluation, this bike is good for overall riding.
Okay.
It's one of the most, we say, versatile, like all-round motorcycles that I have tested. Sababu, when you go off-road, this bike has very good suspension for off-road. When I say good suspension, I mean it. Very good suspension for off-road. And when you're doing highway, this bike is very comfortable. It's very comfortable. Challenge kidogo ni the height. This bike is quite tall. Na hii suspension ya nyuma huwa haishuki sana. Doesn't go so low when you're sitting alone. But if you have a small luggage or a top box or you have a passenger here, the suspension goes to somehow flat. When you look at this bike, it looks like it is inclined in some way because of that suspension. But when you have some luggage and yourself or some passenger here and yourself, the bike becomes slightly flat. And for highway, that is the most comfortable riding you can have. Wakati imekuwa somehow flat. And the suspension becomes so responsive. Ukiwa peke yako ina feel ni ngumu kiasi, especially when the bike is new. But after kuitumia the 2,000-3,000 kilometers, it starts to get softer. Gets softer. So the first time I took this bike out, nili feel ni kama that suspension is not okay. But after kuipigisha malam I started understanding ni mimi sikuwa naelewa imefaa kutumika aje. So just give it some time. As the engine breaks in, the suspension feels a little bit softer and it's very comfortable.
And I hear some people saying that they have adjusted the shocks. Can that affect the bike or performance or?
What happens when you adjust the shock, depending on how much weight you have, that is what affects how the bike is going to perform. Because you don't also want a bike that is bouncing. You don't want that. But mostly the people who adjust the suspension usually adjust it sababu ya height. Because you see, like for me and you, our height is not the same. So my legs are taller than yours.
True.
For you to touch the ground on this one, you have to really struggle. But for me, I'm going to be comfortable here. So if a client is your size, ataona it's good to adjust the suspension and make the bike a little bit shorter.
Acha nikalia nione.
Kalia uone.
So people at my height,
yes, wewe unakuwa 5 foot something,
5'3" hapo, 5'4", si ndio?
5'4".
5'4".
I am 5'10".
So you
mimi niko na inches ziko juu yako. Na sasa ujue zinatoka kwa miguu chini. So kalia uone. Toka kwa stand. See now.
Me actually I'm tiptoeing. I'm tiptoeing.
You're tiptoeing.
I'm tiptoeing and I'm 5'4".
5'4". Wacha sasa tuone watu wa almost 6 feet. 5'10".
Okay.
See, for me, I'm on the ground with both feet. So he haiwezi nishali hata kidogo. So for people of that height, definitely it is going to be a little challenge. So for me, this bike is most fitted for tall people. Yeah, for tall people.
Okay.
It might be a good performer, it might be good, but when it challenges you in terms of height, your safety could get compromised at some point. Especially when you're riding through heavy traffic, where you need to step down, get on the bike, fit down, up, it might challenge you, and at some point, you can get yourself in trouble because of that height. Something else, it makes the ride uncomfortable. When the bike is too tall, it makes the ride uncomfortable.
Okay.
You need to be in a position where you can put your feet down and save a situation. So if you can't, then you're not really
actually you might fall down.
Yes. And again itakuangukia.
The bike will follow you. Especially on slopey areas.
Yes. Ama slippery places.
And
you go off-road, it is raining, you need to have total control of the bike. So if you don't have that one, the safety is compromised.
And coming to the slippery area, these wheels, can you tell us why is it advisable to go off-road using these rims and this type of wheels compared to maybe the sports bike wheels or other aluminium wheels?
You see, this wheel is so slim. It doesn't take a lot of space on the ground when you go off-road. So you can go through very, very thin path, very thin. Like this place is slippery, ama slope, you have a small space left. You can be, that's why you see proper off-road bikes have this size of a tire. It is because you don't want to take a lot of space where you're riding. Sometimes the space is not even there. Again, kukiwa na matope, inakata kalaini kadogo. So, haina a lot of friction kwa bike. The bike doesn't really struggle. Inakata kalaini kadogo. Kuliko mguu ya mbele ikiwa nono, inasukuma matope. It is the same theory with gari dogo na lori. Especially lori miguu ya nyuma ile ya double. Ikishikwa na matope, it becomes a total disaster. Total disaster. Because ikishika matope inakuwa one big size of a wheel. So inasukumaga a very big space on the ground. Lakini haka dogo kanakata vizuri. So it doesn't really make the engine struggle to move. That's why unapata bike za off-road miguu inakuwa nyembamba. Even the big bikes.
They actually have
even the big bikes unapataga. Those 900, 1200. Ukiangalia miguu haikuwagi nono kama miguu ya sport. Especially miguu ya mbele. It is because of that theory.
Okay.
Isikule space kubwa kwa ground. Alafu ukipata kabarabara kakona kamtaro kebamba, you can ride through that kamtaro and get yourself out. You can ride easily. Ndio maana inakuwa na hii miguu. On the issue of wires, the spokes, these spokes are not really tight. They are not supposed to be really tight. This small movement you see here helps the shock absorbers in absorbing some of the shock from the ground. Ukigonga kitu, hizi wires twist kidogo. So una imagine zina twist moja, mbili, tatu, like all of them twisting. So they absorb that shock before it gets to the suspension all the way to the handlebars.
So kuna more stability.
You have more stability. And again, breaking these wires is hard wheels. Yes, because hizi ni chuma. Hizi ni chuma. Hizi wire ni chuma.
That's why they call it off-road rims and the sports bike.
These are now the proper off-road rims.
Okay.
There are some bikes that come with spokes, the alloy, na bado ni bike za off-road. But the quality of the alloy that comes with some of those bikes is high quality. And those bikes become very expensive.
Okay.
Very expensive. Because they must get very, very good quality of alloy to handle off-road. They must get a very good quality.
Actually, that makes sense.
Yes.
So afadhali people to at least to get this bike.
Yes.
You know, a person like me, I'm a average person. I can't spend like 50,000 or 60,000 on rims. So if I spend, let's say, like 10 or 20,000 on this rim, you sawa.
Again, even if you hit something and this rim beds, you don't throw it away. It has some very easy quick fix. Ukikata hii waya moja, you can get another wire that spoke. You replace it, you cover, and then you
are good to
retain
go.
the rim.
Okay.
And but for the alloy, if you hit something really hard, you bend that alloy, chances are you'll have to throw away the whole rim. Something else that you need to understand, these wires come as a package with a tube. There is a tube inside this tire. But alloy comes tubeless. If you shift the alloy slightly,
pressure
that one is done. Pressure imetoka, you are stuck, that's
you
done.
can't move.
That's done.
So that's another advantage
That's another
on this.
advantage. The other advantage is when you go off-road, deep in the villages, if you get a puncture, anybody with knowledge of repairing puncture will help you.
So
on that tube.
Okay, so I can go to any mechanic
anywhere you go, anybody with the knowledge of fixing motorcycle wheels, the normal ones in the villages, they are going to help you. But with that tubeless tire, which is a different type of a tire from this one, you need some special tools to fix a puncture.
And some people, I think it's a rumor, but I'm not very sure if it's true. They convert this rim, this wheel, to off-road, to tubeless. What they tell me, wanakata the tube, they put the tire sealant, and then they seal the tube.
There are people who do that, but it is not very, very advisable because a lot of times they fail. It fails. Because you know these wires go through the rim. This is not a mashimo. This is not a mashimo. You have to be really smart to make sure hakuna shimo hata moja itapata leakage. Again, remember the sealant is liquid. Hiyo pashi umeweka ya tube na gum iko in the same place na sealant ya liquid. So hiyo liquid itakuja kukula hiyo gum uliweka. Hiyo part of the tube ulikata ukapash itatoka. So unaanza kuona sealant ikitokea huko.
And that might be a bit
works
risky
sometimes, but it also fails.
Now sealant ikitoka huku, it might come to the rim, to the tube, to this area, alafu iko slippery.
Yes, and again ikianza kutoka, inatoka na pressure.
So afadhali tu tuache hivyo.
So heri ukae tu nayo na tube.
And another question people have been asking me, is this bike really good for long distance? What advantage is there compared to the 150cc and air cooled? Iko aje yani?
Hii bike ni 200cc. We are estimating around 17 horsepower. 17 horsepower will get you to around 110 kilometers an hour comfortably without pushing the bike. The engine is not struggling. But for the 150cc's, to get to 110, you push the bike to almost lead dry. 150cc's, like most of them have 4 gears, others 5 gears. I don't think we have any 150cc with 6 gears.
No,
they come with 5 at most. This one has 6 gears. Gear 6 is not for adding new power or speed. It is meant to relax the engine. Relax the engine by reducing the revolutions, the RPMs. Reduce the fuel consumption. Reduce the strain that the engine is going through. So gear 6 is more comfortable for cruising. It is not adding new speed. It is only relaxing the engine. Relaxing the engine to help you also relax. Because when you're running at 115 at a 150cc, like you were struggling yourself to hold on to that speed. You're struggling with the throttle to make sure you don't reduce that speed. But with this one, you're not struggling. So you might find someone with a 150cc telling you that their 150cc is faster than this one. They will tell you that. But in reality, they are making the bike go through a lot of strain to achieve the speed you are doing comfortably.
Very true.
Yes. So you might find that I tested this bike myself. I have a video on YouTube with this bike. I achieved 134 kilometers an hour. That was the topmost speed I achieved with this bike. Without a luggage, without a passenger, alone. And it was in the morning, the wind was so calm. So I achieved 134 kilometers an hour. But between 125 and 134, the bike doesn't feel safe. and it becomes very light.
Because
becomes very light.
Why is it? Why is it?
The bike is not heavy. So 130 kilometers an hour on this one is quite risky because this bike is just around like 140 kilos. It is not heavy. It's not heavy. So if you get to a situation where a huge vehicle crosses over when you're doing 130, you can be blown away.
Hizo matrailers
Yes.
sasa.
You can be blown away.
Watu wa Mombasa
So
Road.
this bike is not for speed. But if you are a person who cruises comfortably 100, 105, you can learn the whole day.
Okay.
You can learn the whole day. I have taken this bike to Maridi, like 3 of them. I have gone to Ukunda, Diani on the ones I was using. I have been to Kapeguria in West Pokot. I've gone to Kisumu. I have crossed through all the counties of Western Kenya with this bike. I know how this bike performs on the highway.
Wow.
This is a long distance traveling motorcycle. Not more of off-road. You see this one? If you get off-road and it is raining, this thing is going to bother you. And at some point, you might have to remove these bolts and remove this whole thing, ride without it.
But won't it
Because
be
of
risky?
mud.
What effect will it have when I remove this mudguard?
It will only make the bike look dirty, but it doesn't damage anything. What can be damaged is this.
Because of the mud accumulates there.
If it accumulates up, and again, inashikaga bike inashindwa kusonga. That is the moment where you blow up the crash. Unashoma crash.
So it's like you are struggling to.
Yes. It is like you are trying to push a bike that is already tied to a rope na imefunguliwa kwa kikingi.
So you are straining the engine. You are destroying the.
So what happens is utashoma crash haraka sana. So in situation like that one, that's why you are advised to carry your toolkit wherever you go, because you might require this Allen key to remove this thing.
So another
question. Kwa matope sana, like mvua imenyesha, you are coming from a place with the black cotton, you might have to remove this.
Another question people have been asking me, can I raise this mudguard ikuje juu kidogo? Itakuwa na effect yote on the shocks?
You can raise some 2 inches. You can do modifications and raise this one for like 2 inches. You can change this part.
Just a metal,
you just adjust that metal. You might have to do some welding. You make this thing go a little better. But you also have to consider the movement of the suspension, because this beak doesn't move.
Okay.
This is what comes up. So if you bring it so close, it is going to hit this one.
It will affect actually,
Yes, it is going to hit this one. And again, it will come here. This is going to come here. So when you turn the bike, itakuwa inakwama huko.
Inaharibu tena.
Yes, itakuwa inakwama unless sasa uikate. Au ukikata matope yote kwa engine.
Inakuingia.
Kwa engine. It will make you actually dirty. One thing I love about this bike is you can ride to the office and get there clean. Even during the rainy season. Doesn't splash a lot of mud. Doesn't really splash a lot of mud. And
another question, you have been using this bike for long distance.
Yes, I have done a lot of long distance.
Ikikuja kwa tank, hii tank vile unaona hivi. This
tank ya mafuta.
Ni how many liters?
Inakujaga 13 point something, not really 14, 13 point something.
13, not so maybe 13 liters.
13.5, around 13.5 liters. Yes, that's what you get here.
Sasa consumption ya bike iko aje?
The test I have done gives me around 32 to 33 kilometers a liter, depending on the direction I'm going, the weed and stuff like that, and again the speed I'm doing. But it gives me 32 kilometers a liter, minimum of 32 kilometers a liter.
Some people say it depends with the weight, the
yes,
speed,
again it depends on the weight of the rider, the wind, the day you're riding, which direction the wind is moving. Because sometimes you might find the wind is pushing from behind you, helping you ride faster without the engine straining. Sometimes the wind is coming from sideways, it is pushing you to the side, so you are making the engine strain to remain up, to remain the bike upright. Sometimes the wind is coming from the front, you are cutting through wind, the drag is too much. So it also affects. And again, how heavy are you? Do you have a luggage? Stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah, so it also affects the fuel consumption. But basically, when you ride normally, 100 kilometers an hour, 105, 110, you're supposed to get around 32 kilometers a liter. Yes, on a normal day.
And another question, sorry to ask this question, ni maswali customer ananiulizanga. This is the alarm system. So unaweza weka alarm, unaweza toa, and you can start your bike using this alarm.
Yes.
So some people ask me, can they ride the bike vile iko hivi? Unaona engine iko on na sijaweka kifunguo. Is it possible?
You
for
can
long
ride,
distance?
You can ride, but it is not advisable. It is not advisable. Because you see, when you put these things in the pocket, you might push a button when you're riding without the key. You might push a button and the bike goes off. For instance, the motorcycle is running, and then where you put these keys, you start. So you see now you're pushing it, you're starting the engine again, and the engine is already running. You're going to do a lot of things that can damage the motorcycle. So I usually advise, put the key. Don't be lazy, use the key. In case you do something wrong with the crash and the bike goes off, maybe you release the crash wrongly, maybe it's a beginner, something might happen and you stall the bike. You do not have to go back to the pocket and start looking for the alarm, these buttons and stuff like that. It's not advisable. So always have the key on the ignition, even for your own safety, because when you turn it off, you're very sure you have turned the bike off. But now for this one, imagine this motorcycle is on gear. Let us just give it a gear. It is on gear now. It cannot learn. The engine will not learn with the remote because the bike is on gear. But if you get used to having these things in your pocket, you will push this one, the dashboard comes on, the headlight comes on, and you go your way. You will come back only to realize the bike battery went off, nothing you can do. And
actually it's unsafe because someone can switch on the bike and live with the bike.
Yes, because now if this is what you do, someone is going to come here, put the bike on neutral. They put the bike on neutral. It is very easy for them to actually run away with the bike. So you have to be very careful with this one. Very careful with this one, because someone will do this.
Very true.
And they only need to go for 1 kilometer. Before the bike senses that this thing is quite far, they can put the bike in a pickup truck. Because motorcycle theft only requires the bike to move from where it was. Just 1 meter movement. Just 1 meter movement. It is gone.
Even within the parking lot.
Yes, it is gone. So you have to be careful with this one.
Okay.
You have to be careful with this one.
Wow.
And again, you see, when you want to turn it off, even if you turn it off with the kill switch, the dashboard remains on, the headlight remains on. So if someone comes again, they will just
do that and live with the bike. So you have to make sure it's
you have to make sure when using, use the keys. And again, you see, even if you use the keys to turn it off, the ignition is already off, the dashboard is on. So you have to come back again on this one and switch it. Okay. A lot of business that is unnecessary. This one is supposed to be a security for you. When you take the bike home, see, it is confusing the system. You take the bike home, you just lock.
You lock the steering.
And then
you press alarm.
You just go your way. If someone comes and tries to interfere with the bike, the alarm is going to make a lot of noise.
Or even when
if someone tries to make any contact with the ignition, just look at this.
When
they try to make any contact with the ignition,
there it is.
So your alarm is only supposed to help you safeguard the motorcycle, not ride the bike without the key. Don't just learn keyless. It is not safe. Again, look at this. You're running with your remote. The ignition doesn't have the key, and it is off. You see, like right now, the ignition is off. You come land the bike with this, and then you forget the keys, or you lose them. What do you do?
And now it's on off.
It is on off.
You have to.
Actually, it is on off, So you cannot use the manual way of riding the bike.
And you've lost the
And you have
alarm
lost
system.
this
This system.
So just tell your customers not
be
to
very
do that.
careful.
Just use the key.
Key is okay.
Just use the key. The key is very much okay. That's why the manufacturer gave you the key. And they actually come in. They gave you the 2 keys for that business.
That's really useful information.
Yes.
Well, hey, I think I've exhausted my questions. Another question, a very simple question, but I know most people don't know about this. When it comes to some people ask, unaona hii mguu, this wheel, it's different, and also the sprocket is different from sports bike. Some people ask, I want to take this rim and put it on my sports bike. Or maybe the sprocket to put it on my sports bike. So how can you advise them?
What they need to understand is the engine performance is determined by the wheel you have and the sprocket you have. You could have a very powerful engine, but you have the wrong sprocket. You will never have that power transferred to the wheel, because the engine power is transferred from the engine to the wheel through the chain and the sprockets. So if you have the wrong set of sprockets, they will never transfer that actual amount of power to that bike. This wheel is so slim. So slim. Sport bikes come with a little bit wider tires. And it is for the purpose of maintaining stability on high speed and cornering.
Okay, leaning,
Lean. If you lean with this one, chances are you're going off-road. You're going off the highway. If you lean too much with this one, you're going out of the highway. The sprockets need to be at some ratio. The manufacturer knows how much of power they are producing in the engine and how much they want to transfer to the wheel. And that's where they do the calculations of how many teeth do we have at the rear sprocket, how many should we have to the front. Because 1 tooth to the front is equivalent to 3 the rear. That is usually the ratio. 1 is to 3. So if you adjust the rear one, you also have to adjust the front one to maintain the balance.
That I didn't know.
There are the types of power that engine produces. The horsepower and the torque. The torque is the power to move weight, the power that moves the bike plus the rider. The horsepower is how fast you can achieve speed. These are 2 different types of power. The power to move and the power to achieve speed. Because torque can move you from here all the way to there at 2 kilometers per hour, and it is moving.
It is moving.
The same way you see long distance trucks. Sometimes you find that truck running at 15 kilometers an hour uphill. But it is moving. It can't stop.
And
the engine has enough power to move
that heavy truck.
But the horsepower in this truck is so low to achieve speed uphill. It has enough torque, but it lacks horsepower.
I understood.
Yes.
So
it can't achieve speed uphill, but it is equally powerful to move that weight uphill.
So the torque is me moving. This is my torque. Me running is the horsepower.
Yes, you landing and achieving speed. Now that is the discussion about horsepower. So you find that adventure bikes and sport bikes have different figures when it comes to horsepower and torque.
So
sometimes you find like these bikes have equal amount of torque and horsepower.
While
you find sport bikes have a difference of like 40 in figures, horsepower and torque. Low torque, high horsepower to achieve high speed. That's what happens. So you find that sport cars have a lot of horsepower. You'll find a vehicle with 700 horsepower, but a trailer that carries a 40-foot container has 300 and something horsepower. You wonder, is this vehicle more powerful than this one? No. No, it has more horsepower, but very low torque. And torque is what is important here when it comes to moving weight.
Understood you.
Yes, see now, those are the figures. So these bikes do not have a lot of horsepower, not have a lot of torque because it is not so heavy. It's not so heavy. It's just 140 kilos. And then you add your weight here. It's not going to strain.
Okay.
Yes.
That's very useful. I didn't know that.
The question you find people asking is the borders we have. Easy borders. You find them carrying a lot of luggage.
Magunia, manini.
Magunia imebeba mpaka buzi, imebeba a lot of stuff.
Hata ng'ombe imebeba.
The issue is the manufacturers of these motorcycles meant for borders concentrate their power on torque. They give this bike a lot of torque to carry weight. That's why you find them carrying a lot of luggage. But when it comes to speed, haina speed. Iko na power lakini haina speed.
No, I've always thought that horsepower is everything.
No, horsepower is everything for the people who want speed. But for people who want power to carry weight, they discuss torque.
Very nice. Understood it.
Yes.
Sasa, I've exhausted all my questions.
We are good.
This bike goes for 297, sindio? You can also use the Lipa pole pole option, financing option, kupata hii bike. Hata ukiwa na cash, unaweza kuja na cash mara moja, you clear your machine and you live with it. As the engine is under warranty, has the number plate, has the logbook, everything is there. So ni kuchomoka tu, kuweka insurance ni
mafuta ukiendana.
Mafuta. Tunawekeana watu 3 liters, usijali, hautasukuma bike.
Huwezi sukuma bike from the showroom to the petrol station. You have enough fuel to take you there.
Nice. So, I think I've exhausted all my question. Asante sana. Umenisaidia sana na umesaidia pia watu wanaangalia. Nimeshukuru sana. If you have any question, give us a call. Your number?
0715-713-212.
And I'm Paul from Nairobi Bikes, 0720-965-222. Tupigie, tutaongea more. Thanks. Hapo sawa. Mimi